In this session we're looking at creditors, journals, batch journals. Now, batch journals and single journals will allow you the same type of transactions, but with a single journal you can only process one transaction per screen, whereas when you come to batch journals you can process different types of transaction types, different types of creditors, all on one screen. The disadvantage of a batch journal is that when you process a single journal, you can select a transaction type and then change the ledger, whereas when you process a batch journal, it will use the default ledger. In other words, let me show you what we can do here. We're going to choose an account, so I'm going to click on the down arrow. I'm going to use one of my creditors, ABC wholesalers. You specify your date. Just remember, if this was an opening balance that you were capturing, remember to change that date accordingly to make sure that this transaction will be in the correct period. And then you choose your transaction types. In this case, I'm going to choose a journal credit and then specify an amount. The next transaction I can now process for a different creditor, for a different date, a different transaction type. If you wanted to change the ledger, you can choose the option, let's just press escape. You can choose the option split and then change the transaction or the account, the ledger account, or split the transaction into two, where a part of the amount goes to one ledger and a part of the amount goes to another ledger. I'll just close that. While we're busy here, we can load batches, we can save batches, we can delete this batch, we can save the date, we can search, we can import a text file. There's two choices here, a CSV file or a module that was written specifically for a company that uses GenHire file import. We can export this information, previewing the report before you process, and if you can preview, you can design. Remember, this is batch processing, which means if I've got a couple of transactions and I close the screen, that information will stay on the screen for you. Once you open it again, you can continue working with your batch, and once everything is finished, everything's been double checked, you then press process and it will then update to all the correct ledger and creditors accounts. And that concludes looking at creditors batch journals.